So we've had a few weeks now with the R1 DC1 chassis. We've had a couple good nights of running on it. We've had some ups and downs. Ready to show you guys exactly what we got going on right now and talk about how we're going to try to make this car better than what it is doing right now. So my name is Chad. This is the Dorky M40 RC channel. We are going to make you faster today. Welcome back, everybody. Glad to have you with me. Sorry about the delay in videos, but life as usual has been a lot more insane than I intended it to be. But we are not here to talk about me. We are here to talk about the DC1. Now, first, if you get any value out of this at all, scroll down, hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And if you feel that I've done something even better for you guys, you can always donate to the channel with the paypal.me link below or buy something with one of the Amazon links. So here is the DC1 right now in all of its glory. And we'll just go ahead and kind of start from the top down and work our way down. So of course we are using the C7 Corvette body. It's the silver one that's back there. Decided to go with the C7 just because it's tried and true. I had one and we know how it works. I also had a race wing on it from BC Race Wings from Brent. You know, I go back and forth between his and Gary's from Straight Line Spoilers. I don't think you can really go wrong with either one. I happen to have this one from a while back and I'm really liking its design and the way that it's working. It looks pretty cool. Now, in order to get the whole body mounted perfectly on the directional downforce mounts that we have here on the R1, you can see that the fronts are nice and spread out, and so are the rear holes right here. The problem is these holes actually are coming up right in the actual creases of the windows and the body of the C7. So it's pretty unfortunate. Mounting it was like kind of iffy and kind of difficult. So what I decided to do was just to go ahead and tap a couple holes here in the middle, and this brings the body posts up now right in the middle of the back windshield. Now in a perfect world, I think we want these out further. I mean, everybody says that you want your body weight all out in the corners and stuff, and that way you will get the most downforce and the less floppy and all that. But nobody's really ever put these in a wind tunnel and proven it. But I think enough RC racers agree upon it that that would be the better solution. But this has been running like this for years, and this car's won a lot of money in that configuration, and that all they had was the vet bodies. So I'm not sure exactly how they were getting around that. You know, everybody thinks because R1 sent me the car that I automatically have this wealth of R1 knowledge and this car is going to be going 1.6s and all this other stuff. And that couldn't be further from the truth. They sent me the car because they like what I do for you guys and they want me to take the car and to go faster. I'm sure if it ever reaches a point where I just cannot do something with the car, I could probably reach out for help. But what fun would that be? And as we have learned, in my CastleWorks video, I mean, I had a lot of information in there from some of the fastest people that are out in the country right now, and some of it worked and some of it didn't. It all comes down to putting in the time and effort, and that's what we did here. So we've covered that part. Now, when we take a look at the car, we'll start with taking a look at the rear of the car here. We'll start with the wheelie bar mount. So originally I had the wheelie bar mount on top of the chassis up here, and it really was just not doing me a whole lot and getting wild if it would ride the bar. So I basically moved that down to the bottom here, and the car seemed to perform a lot better. Now that is all basically going to be judged off of ride height. And ride height is one thing that I have been struggling to get my head around with this car. So this frame and its current geometry and everything, I feel are really maxed out for what like the B6 can do and what you can do without totally redesigning these parts. You know, they've adapted the small big bore shocks to this. They've made the shock tower small enough to make everything work, but your ride heights are still going to be pretty high. I've seen a lot of people with their Apollos, and the big trend lately is to have that ride height like 10 millimeters, if not lower in some cases. It's very, very low. That we are looking at measured from the top of the chassis back here in the corners and right here behind. So we're going to subtract about 4.2 millimeters from it. So we're looking at, after our subtractions, we're looking at about 15.2 millimeters here in the front and about 19.2 millimeters here in the back. So that's definitely up there, but it makes the car works. It's definitely got enough bounce and it stays planted. It drives in the track very well. So we are able to actually make that work. Now, when it comes to like how you're going to be mounting that stuff, it's going to be up to you. I know that in order to get the the ride height down enough in the back that I had this to kick the shocks out as far as they would go. And it, by, you know, just looking at it, you can see there's plenty of shock action. Actually, we're going to be talking about that here in a little bit. So there's plenty of movement there. We don't need much more than that. Now for the front, of course, we have to support all this weight up here with the forward mounted servo, battery, all that kind of stuff. So that got a little bit tricky to find the right combination of spring, fluid, and just the actual geometry of the shocks. So I could show you shock holes and all that kind of stuff if you wanted to, but really you're just going to have to work that stuff out for you. The biggest thing that I can tell you is that you're definitely going to want to pick up a lot of extra springs, you know, like all the different flavors that you can get. And, you know, if you go on the R1 site, they have different springs that are available. These are standard 1.35 inch springs, guys. So they make these in even heavier pounds. So you'll see that I have gold springs on my car here, which are actually a 12 pound. So you can get these kind of springs from 5.7 Designs, Team GFRP, Custom Works, I think, is just the people that make them, and they get them all off of anyway. So, but make sure you're getting the 1.35s, and those fit these shock bodies very well. They do make a 1.1 if you notice that you really have to turn down your turnbuckles a lot. Remember, the spring rate, guys, just a 12 pound spring, you're always going to be getting 12 pounds. Only thing it does is that when it's not getting enough resistance onto it, you're not pushing down on it enough, then it's not able to do its job. So if you're not getting any rebound, like in the front when I was using way lighter springs, I'd push down on my car and the car would sink. But if you watch the car now, it pops right back up. So that's what you're looking for between your spring rate, your ride height, just trying to get that stuff all dialed in so that way it will just be set up and working perfectly for you. Again, you can just kind of see how that's popped right back up. I've got these turned down about 7.5 millimeters, and that's basically the distance between the collar and the top of the shock. And that seems to be working out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with the way the front is. I used to run really stiff oil. I've got 80 weight around in all these, and I'm actually thinking to go to 50 weight because, again, I've seen what people around me are doing and what's working for them on like my surface and other surfaces that we have been on lately. And we're definitely looking at like stiffer springs to hold up the weight of all this extra stuff that we're putting on there. But then finding that right combination of just a stiff enough spring to hold the car and the right kind of fluid to control the actual transfer of the damper inside. And the piston, of course. I say make things easy and just use the same piston, whether it's a 2-hole or 3-hole in any of the shocks, and you'll be good. That way you can take that out of the equation. So I'm using 2 holes all the way around with 80 weight fluid, but I think we're going to change to 50. Now, when we're also talking about the rear end here, right now we have their purple springs on, which their purples are listed at 7 pounds. So lots of good movement back here in the back, but I've noticed all of my logs do not have that nice smooth curve with that drop off. You know, we want that pop and then over. We don't want all this jagged stuff here. And the logs are picking that up, so we're slipping. My first intentions was, hey, I've got a couple different kind of Voodoos, got reds, got silvers, had Proline blues. The Proline blues ran fine. The reds, Voodoos ran better. The silvers ran the best, but they just still were not soft enough in any condition to get rid of all those bumps in the road. So that tells me that we need to change the actual spring rate. So we're going to drop from a purple 7 pound down to a green 6 pound, which is pretty much what everybody's using around me anyway. So that'll help give us a little bit more action here in the back. And in the front, I'm pretty much going to leave it the way it is. I might be able to jump down to like an 11 pound spring, but I don't really think it's going to be worth it at this point, because then I kind of like having the extra weight on the front as far as the front bias. I've got 2 of these brass plates on the front here. The first night that I ran it, when I was running like 2s on the GNS. You know, my fastest GNS time so far was like a 194. So, you know, take that for what it is. It's the only judge I have right now. If it's a 185 or a 19, I don't know. 194 on the GNS at like 76 miles an hour. So I've got 2 of these on the front here to help keep everything planted in the front and help, basically just give a little bit more action there to the downforce generators that are built into this thing, the body, everything else, and trying to find the equal distribution of everything here, and everything's pretty good. I'd have to put it on the scales right now to see what my actual weight bias is, but I'm really not too concerned about it because, again, the car's going straight, it's working. 1 degree toe here, this is 2 degree toe in the back. Camber, I always set my camber at like 1, 1, 1, and 1, even though some people will say 0. I'm just looking out for you guys. If you want to take it the next step and set all your cambers at 0, that's fine. Just make sure that you have your angles and everything set correctly, and check the back end and make sure that when you push down on your car that you're getting, you're not getting like a positive camber situation, or maybe it's a negative. Anyway, you want them to come in, you don't want them to go out. We've done plenty of videos on that in the past, so check those out. Now on the Castle system right now, I am running an 81 and a 29 pinion, and I think I'm going to switch to a 78 spur on this just to see exactly what will happen, and we'll have to do the equivalent final drive ratio with the pinion. Not sure what that is yet, maybe like a 28 or 27. But with the stand-up transmission, just kind of getting used to everything. Now, I did have to go through and rebuild I actually went through again and redid the entire car. So in the car bit video that I was talking about, I talked about going in and Loctiting like all these transmission spacers and all those kind of things, and I didn't. So I went through and did all that stuff this time because one night I did a pass on the car and it wouldn't come back to me. Top shaft was completely locked up. Figured that I just blew the transmission or whatever. So the transmission was the only thing that I did not take apart and look at, because when I received a sealed transmission that I could clearly see had like grease in it, I figured that it was good to go. But what actually had happened was the diff screws had like worked their way out. So the diff cover was popping out. There was no diff fluid in there or anything at all. So we rebuilt that, cleaned off those, tightened those things down as good as we could. The good thing about that R1 diff, I've never seen, most of your diffs have like 1.5, flathead screws in there. So it's, you kind of got to be careful when you're torquing down on those things. These were actually 2.5s. So that made it pretty nice. That way I didn't have to worry about the fluid and grease that had already gotten in the hole. I like to Loctite my diff. I think everybody should too. Just take that out of the equation. You can always get them out at the end, but I couldn't do this one, so I torqued them all the way down, and it's been holding up pretty good so far. And then I went through, redid the transmission, cleaned it all up, and then of course Loctited all the transmission screws to make sure everything was coming together beautifully. Now, thank goodness that was the only thing that happened, because that could have been a dreadful situation. Could have blown the ESC, the motor, all kinds of stuff with that transmission going like that, but nothing happened. So no harm, no foul. Shame on me for assuming that and not taking it apart. But again, we were able to rebuild it, put the 500K diff fluid in it, and I'm using the low C fluid here, which is nice. It comes in the tube. You can squirt it in there as easily as you can squirt 500K. It's probably going to buy us about a month, maybe 5 weeks, depending upon how much we run the car before we have to rebuild our diff again. If you're going with 100, 150, 200, the stuff's breaking down a lot faster. So this is going to break down just a little bit slower. So we should be able to get some more time on that thing. The other thing that we've done, if you see here on the front, is we've got that R1 battery mount up here that's designed to hold the the big 1500 brick that they have. I've got this Phantom 9900 in here right now. My R1 11400 is acting a little bit funky, so gonna have to get that one, get a new one and get that one replaced. So we've got the Phantom in here, so we've got less milliamps, we got a couple more P's. It works pretty much about the same, so not really a big deal on that right now. But that's just what's going on there with the battery action. Now, I know people just love talking about Voodoo Tires, but if you're lucky enough to have them and you can go through and use them as a tuning option, then that's just the way to go. There's a box back there sitting next to that Millennium Falcon box that has got Voodoo Tires in it, because they came out of nowhere and did a pre-sale, and we got them shipped and actually got them this week. So less than a week, we were able to get these things. It was, you kind of dropped it out there, and thank goodness to my buddy Tim Barth that he is online a lot, and he emailed and texted me that They were on pre-order, so me and the entire crew immediately started jumping online and buying Voodoo tires because they are the truth. That is for sure. So if you are ever stuck in a position with your car and you swear that you have done everything that you can do, just buy a pair of Voodoos, man. Buy a pair of silvers. Put some good foams in them. You will definitely go faster. I know it's a hard pill for somebody to swallow if you have to pay retail, but we saw during the last load that the prices came down on them pretty good. And I saw some people getting sets for like 70 to 80 bucks, which again is like almost twice a retail, but nothing like they were. So definitely that is a bargain. You could spend $80 on a lot worse things in this hobby. So the other thing that we're going to do is I'm going to try to get the Corvette body up just a little bit higher. And R1 actually came out with some taller hexes here for the directional body mount kit here. And they're basically like triple the size. So I'm going to throw these on there and that'll get that up and allow me to get the vet up a little bit, because even though these tires are belted, they still do balloon and rub and everything a little bit. And of course you can see that I am using narrow wheels and I put these on the silver color just because that way I would know that they are Voodoo silvers, because the silver dot wipes off on the side when you start cleaning these things. So still cleaning these things with the wild awesome performance and using the Get Stuck prep. All that stuff is just working fantastic. We will be having a test session tonight, so hopefully I can try out the changes that I'm going to make and we are going to be good. So that's pretty much the setup right now. So if you get your DC1 and you're kind of on the fence about what to do with the setup, hit me up with some questions if you need to, but everything you need, I just pretty much went over. The changes, like I said, I am going to make. I'm going to go from a purple to a green spring in the back, kind of help get us a little bit more, smooth things out, see if the logs are still picking up all that kind of concrete and all that stuff. And then I guess I'm going to take the shocks apart, and I'm debating on whether or not I want to go to the 50 weight in the shocks. This is a very heavy car compared to some other builds that are out there. So I kind of like the 80 and the slower transfer, and I don't like to make a lot of changes at once. So I think between the gearing and just the spring change, it'll probably be enough for tonight, and we'll see what kind of results we can get. So thanks a lot for everything, guys. Hope this was helpful to you. We'll talk to you guys on the next video. Peace.